The Broken Promise. The Keltharan homeworld of Thelos Prime hung in space like a blue-green jewel, peaceful and beautiful. For 3,000 years, the Keltharan people had lived there in harmony. They were scientists and explorers, philosophers and artists. They had never built weapons of war. They had never needed to. Commander Vela stood in the Planetary Defense Center, watching the holographic display with growing dread. Hundreds of red dots surrounded her world. Each dot represented a warship of the Dravok Empire. Each ship carried enough firepower to level a city. "How long do we have?" she asked quietly. Her second officer checked the readings. "The Dravok commander has given us 48 hours to evacuate. After that, they will begin orbital bombardment. They want the mineral deposits beneath our cities." Vela closed her eyes. 48 hours to evacuate 6 billion people. It was impossible. The Keltharan had cargo ships and research vessels, but not enough to move even a fraction of their population in 2 days. Most of her people would die here, on the world where their ancestors had lived for millennia. "Have any species responded to our distress calls?" she asked, though she already knew the answer. 17 species received our messages. All 17 have refused to help. The Dravok Empire is too powerful. No one wants to risk war with them over us. Vela understood. It was practical thinking. The Dravok had conquered 40 systems in the last century. They had the largest military force in this sector of the galaxy. Fighting them would cost millions of lives. Why would anyone sacrifice their own people to save the Keltharan? She walked to the window and looked up at the sky. Somewhere up there, hidden among the stars, the Dravok fleet waited. Their commander had been clear. The Keltharan could leave peacefully, or they could die with their planet. There would be no negotiation. An old memory surfaced in Vela's mind. A story her grandmother had told her when she was young. A story about humans. 200 years ago, the Keltharan had been exploring a distant system when they detected a distress signal. A human research station was dying. A solar flare had destroyed their shields, and their life support was failing. 23 humans were trapped, waiting for death. The Keltharan rescue ship was nearby. They had responded immediately. But saving the humans had required using their deep space rescue vessel, the only ship capable of reaching the station in time. That vessel had been prepared for a colony mission. The Keltharan had waited a generation to build it. By using it to save the humans, they had delayed their own expansion by 50 years. The Keltharan captain had made the choice without hesitation. 23 lives were more valuable than any colony. The humans had been saved. They had wept with gratitude. They had promised that humanity would never forget. But that was 200 years ago. The humans who had been saved were long dead. Their children and grandchildren had probably forgotten. Why would modern humans care about an ancient debt? "Commander," her officer interrupted her thoughts. "We're receiving a transmission. It's coming from outside the system." "From whom?" "The signature identifies them as human vessels." Vela's hearts began beating faster. "Human? Are you certain?" "Yes, Commander. They're broadcasting on all frequencies. They want to speak with our leadership immediately." Vela rushed to the communication station. "Put them through." The holographic display flickered, and a human face appeared. The man was older, with gray hair and dark skin. His uniform carried symbols that Vela's translator identified as high military rank. "This is Admiral Marcus Chen of the United Human Defense Fleet," the man said. His voice was calm, but carried an edge of steel. "We received your distress call. We are here to help." Vela felt hope flare in her chest, but she forced herself to think clearly. "Admiral Chen, we are grateful that you responded, but I must be honest with you. The Dravok Empire has 10,000 warships surrounding our planet. We cannot ask you to risk war with them." Chen's expression didn't change. "You didn't ask. We came because we owe you a debt." "A debt? Admiral,
That was 2 centuries ago. Your people owe us nothing. Time doesn't erase debts, Commander. Not for humanity. Chen leaned forward. 200 years ago, your people saved 23 humans. You sacrificed your own colony mission to rescue people you had never met. You asked for nothing in return. It was the right thing to do, Vela said softly. Yes, it was. And now we will do the right thing. Chen's face hardened. The Dravok Empire has threatened people under human protection. They have made a mistake. Under human protection? Admiral, we have no alliance with humanity. We have no treaty. You saved our people. That's all the alliance we need. Chen looked off screen for a moment, then back at Vela. Commander, I need you to relay this message to the Dravok fleet. Tell them that the human fleet has arrived. Tell them to withdraw immediately or face consequences. Vela felt dizzy. Admiral, how many ships did you bring? All of them. All of them. I don't understand. Chen smiled, but it wasn't a pleasant expression. We brought our entire military fleet. Every warship humanity has built. 60,000 vessels. We left our territory undefended. We crossed half the galaxy. And we did it because your ancestors saved our people 200 years ago. Vela couldn't speak. 60,000 ships? The entire human military. They had risked everything, left their own worlds vulnerable, just to repay an ancient debt. Why? Why would you do this? Because humanity remembers, Chen said simply. We remember every act of kindness. We remember every species that helped us when we were weak. And we never, ever forget our debts. The Admiral's image shifted to show a tactical display. Thousands of blue dots appeared at the edge of the system. They were moving in perfect formation, heading directly towards Thelos Prime. We'll arrive in orbit in 6 hours, Chen continued. I suggest you inform the Dravok commander that he has that long to leave. After that, we will remove him ourselves. Vela's communication officer was frantically checking sensors. Commander, I'm confirming the count. There are 60,000 human warships entering our system. The energy signatures, they're massive. Some of those vessels are larger than anything I've ever seen. Chen heard this and nodded. We've been preparing for 2 centuries, Commander. We've been building and training and waiting for the day when we could repay the debt we owe. Today is that day. Admiral, Vela said carefully, the Dravok are experienced warriors. They've conquered dozens of systems. They won't surrender easily. Good, Chen replied. His smile grew colder. We were hoping they'd fight. Humanity has a reputation to establish. The galaxy needs to learn what happens when you threaten someone we care about. The transmission ended. Vela stood in silence, trying to process what had just happened. Her officer approached, his face pale. Commander, what should we do? Vela straightened her shoulders. Contact the Dravok flagship. Their commander needs to know that the situation has changed. Minutes later, the Dravok commander's face appeared on the screen. General Kravik was a massive creature, scaled and muscular, with eyes like black stones. He had led the Dravok military for 30 years. He had never known defeat. Keltharan, Commander, he rumbled. Have you decided to evacuate peacefully? General Kravik, Vela said, keeping her voice steady, I am required to inform you that the human fleet has arrived in our system. They are demanding that you withdraw immediately. Humans? The Death World primitives? How many ships have they sent? 100? 200? 60,000, General. The laughter stopped. Kravik leaned forward. Repeat that number. 60,000 warships. Their entire military fleet. They are entering orbit in 6 hours. They have ordered you to leave or face combat. Kravik was silent for a long moment. Then he spoke, his voice low and dangerous. The humans have made a mistake. We have 10,000 ships. Our vessels are battle-tested. Our warriors have fought 100 wars. These humans are coming to die. General, they saved our people 200 years ago. We sacrificed much to help them. Now they have come to repay that debt. 200 years? Kravik's eyes widened slightly. They came all this way, risked their entire fleet, for a debt 2 centuries old? Yes. The Dravok general stared at her for a long moment. Then he terminated the communication without another word. Vela turned to her staff. Prepare all civilians for possible evacuation, but also prepare emergency shelters.
The reckoning. The human fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel like a swarm of metal predators. 60,000 warships filled the space around Thelos Prime, their running lights creating a constellation of human determination. On the bridge of the flagship Remembrance, Admiral Marcus Chen watched the tactical display with calm focus. All ships report ready status, his tactical officer announced. Formation holding steady. The Dravok fleet is moving into defensive positions around the planet. Chen nodded slowly. The Dravok had arranged their 10,000 ships in layered spheres, a classic defensive formation designed to create overlapping fields of fire. It was textbook strategy, the kind taught in every military academy across the galaxy. Against a conventional force, it would be nearly impenetrable. But humanity didn't fight conventionally. Open a channel to the Dravok flagship, Chen ordered. The screen flickered and General Kravik's face appeared. The Dravok commander looked composed, but Chen could see the calculation in those black eyes. Kravik was counting ships, running numbers, trying to determine if humanity's numerical advantage would be enough to overcome Dravok experience and firepower. Admiral Chen, General Kravik said formally, you have made a long journey for nothing. The Keltheran world will be ours. Your interference changes nothing. General Kravik, I am authorized to offer you one chance to withdraw. Leave this system immediately and unharmed. Refuse, and we will remove you by force. Kravik's laugh was harsh. You have numbers, human, but we have experience. We have fought and won 100 battles. Your species has been in space for barely 3 centuries. You know nothing of real war. Chen smiled thinly. You're right about one thing. Humanity is young in the stars, but we're not young to war. We've been fighting each other on our homeworld for 10,000 years. We perfected the art of killing long before we reached space. Bold words, Kravik sneered, but your Earth wars were primitive, crude weapons and simple tactics. We fight with technology you cannot imagine. Technology can be matched, Chen said quietly, but there's something you should know about humans. We don't fight like other species. We don't surrender when our shields fail. We don't retreat when our hull is breached. We fight until we win or until we're dead. And General, we owe the Keltheran the debt, which means we're not going to die today. Kravik leaned forward. I will give you one chance, Admiral. Turn your fleet around. Go home. We will forget this insult. But if you attack us, we will destroy you. We will shatter your fleet so completely that humanity will need a century to recover. All of this for a debt 200 years old? All of this for a species that means nothing to you. They saved our people, Chen said, his voice hardening. That means they mean everything to us. You have 10 minutes to begin your withdrawal. After that, we will consider you hostile and act accordingly. Chen terminated the communication and turned to his staff. All ships to battle stations. Execute attack plan Sigma 7. His executive officer looked up sharply. Sir, Sigma 7? That's the protocol for enemies we will show no mercy, Chen finished. Yes, the Dravok have built their empire on conquering peaceful species. They've killed billions. Today, the Dravok learn that humanity protects its friends.
Across the human fleet, 60,000 ships began moving into positions that made no sense to conventional military thinking. Instead of forming up for a direct assault, the human vessels scattered. Some moved above the orbital plane, others dropped below. Still more began micro-jumps, short faster-than-light hops that placed them in seemingly random positions around the Dravok formation. On the bridge of the Dravok flagship, General Kravik watched the tactical movements with growing confusion. What are they doing? This isn't any attack pattern I recognize. His tactical officer studied the displays. I don't know, General. They're spreading themselves too thin. They're giving up their numerical advantage by fragmenting their forces. It makes no strategic sense. Kravik felt a cold suspicion forming in his mind. Unless they know something we don't. All ships, maximum alert. Prepare for... The human fleet struck. But they didn't strike where expected. They didn't attack the outer defensive sphere or attempt to break through the layered formation. Instead, every human ship fired simultaneously at the same instant, not at Dravok missiles, but at specific points in space around the planet. Massive energy pulses converged on invisible targets. For a moment, nothing happened. Then space itself seemed to tear open. Dozens of massive structures materialized, flickering into view as their cloaking fields failed under the intense energy bombardment. Dravok supply depots, his tactical officer shouted. They found our hidden supply stations. The human admiral's voice came over all frequencies. You thought you were prepared for a siege, General. You thought you could outlast us because your supply lines were secure. You were wrong. We've been watching your empire for 50 years. We know every depot is, every supply route, every weakness in your logistics. The human ships that had destroyed the supply stations now turned their attention to the Dravok fleet itself. But again, they didn't attack directly. Instead, they launched thousands of small objects into the space between their forces. What are those? Kravik demanded. His science officer's face went pale. General, they're mines, but not normal mines. They're moving, repositioning themselves. They're creating a field that cuts off our retreat vectors. Kravik realized with growing horror what the humans had done. They had trapped the Dravok fleet. His ships could fight, but they couldn't retreat. They couldn't resupply, and they were facing an enemy 6 times their number. All ships, attack formation Beta, Kravik ordered. We'll break through their lines and withdraw to... Sir, we're detecting energy signatures from the human vessels. They're powering weapons we've never seen before. On the Remembrance, Chen watched his tactical display with satisfaction. Activate the resonance cannons. Humanity had spent 200 years preparing for this moment. They had studied every battle the Dravok had ever fought. They had analyzed every tactic, every strategy, every weapon, and they had built something new, something the galaxy had never seen. The resonance cannons fired. The weapons didn't use conventional energy or projectiles. Instead, they generated harmonic frequencies calibrated to match the resonance patterns of Dravok shield generators. When the waves hit the Dravok shields, they didn't bounce off or dissipate. They synchronized with the shield frequencies and amplified them. Dravok shields began to overload across the fleet. Generators exploded. Power systems failed. In seconds, 3,000 Dravok vessels found themselves defenseless. Impossible! Kravik roared. Our shields are the most advanced in the galaxy. How did they... The Keltherin, his science officer whispered. General, the Keltherin are the greatest scientists in known space. If they shared their research with the humans, if they gave them humanity their technical data in gratitude for this rescue... Kravik understood immediately. The Keltherin hadn't just called for help. They had given humanity the keys to defeating the Dravok. 200 years of Keltherin scientific advancement, combined with human military innovation and an old debt to repay. The human fleet pressed their advantage. Ships that had seemed scattered suddenly revealed their true positions. They had formed a three-dimensional net around the Dravok forces, attacking from every angle simultaneously. Dravok ships tried to return fire, but the humans had positioned themselves to create crossfire zones where any Dravok shot risked hitting their own ships. Chen watched the battle unfold with grim satisfaction. Target their command vessels, non-lethal shots. We want them alive to spread the word. Human weapons fire lanced through space with surgical precision. They didn't destroy Dravok ships wholesale. Instead, they targeted engines, weapons arrays, communication systems. They crippled the fleet systematically, professionally, with a level of tactical coordination that shocked every observer. On Thelos Prime, Commander Vela watched the battle from her command center. Her staff stood in stunned silence as the humans dismantled the Dravok fleet, piece by piece. The Dravok had been unstoppable conquerors. They had crushed every force that opposed them for a century. The humans were beating them in less than an hour. "How are they doing this?" one of her officers whispered. Vela thought about the research data her scientists had sent to Earth 50 years ago. A gift, a small token of gratitude for humanity's long-ago rescue. The Keltherin had shared their discoveries in shield technology, energy harmonics, and quantum mechanics. They thought humanity might use it for peaceful purposes, for exploration and trade. The humans had used it to build weapons. Weapons specifically designed to counter the Dravok threat. Weapons they had kept secret, waiting for the right moment, waiting for a debt to be repaid. In space, General Kravik's flagship